world focused on the individual, this podcast aims to shine a light on the remarkable spirit of humanity. We're dedicated to bringing you the inspiring conversations with exceptional organizations and individuals devoted to creating a better world. Welcome to the Lighthouse Keepers Podcast.
Welcome to the Lighthouse Keepers Podcast. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Sherlock, and I'm really delighted to introduce you to our guest today, Jonathan Garr. He's the Executive Director of the Fire Island Lighthouse Preservation Society. Super thrilled to have him. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
One of the reasons why I invited you is because I knew the Fire Island Lighthouse held such a connection for me and my family, but I also know, now meeting you, it has a deep connection to you. Can you tell us a little bit about how your goal, have you actually wound up being the executive director of such a, in my opinion, historical but really symbolic place?
Yeah, I'm still astonished myself, honestly. It's a dream. I love it. I grew up on the beach, on the water, kind of down the road, the next island, and my whole life, all I wanted to do was be outside and be near the ocean, and to be able to have a job like this where I can protect the lighthouse, but also the surrounding ocean, my community, all the people that come to the lighthouse. That's kind of how I ended up there.
Right. We're going to talk a little bit about the lighthouse because I think, you know, we're here on Long Island. I think some of the facts that you sort of told me is there are 20 lighthouses here on Long Island. And I think that's part of the mystique and the wonder about why people are so fascinated with lighthouses. Yeah. Do you want to give us a little bit of a story about this particular one, Fire Island Lighthouse?
Yeah, so where to start with the story?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a hard question. There's so much about our lighthouse,
right.
Lighthouses, and Fire Island Lighthouse particularly. I'd say the most prominent thing about our lighthouse is its connection to New York City and New York Harbor and guiding ships from across the Atlantic to a major port.
Yes.
In the early Americas, and kind of helping that grow, helping ships and merchants grow their businesses and bring in supplies and food and people. That's the purpose of lighthouses, and the Fire Island Lighthouse specifically. You're a New Yorker, I'm a New Yorker. You know, we're in the center of the world, right?
That's right, exactly.
So
yes,
is our
sir.
Fire Island Lighthouse, yeah.
I read something about the Fire Island Lighthouse flash goes off every 60 seconds. And apparently, just like you said, it was the first flash of light that European immigrants saw on their way into Ellis Island, which, you know, the reason why we do this podcast and we've used this metaphor is because I feel it is about hope, and it is about, you know, what could be. And so I found that such an interesting, you know, phenomenon that's exactly what they see as they headed into Ellis Island was this beacon of hope.
Exactly, yeah. So just a few things. Today, actually, our lighthouse flashes every 7.5 seconds.
No kidding.
And that's because we have something called electricity, and life is easy.
Hey,
and we keep the switch on.
Well done.
Back in the day, you were exactly correct. It would flash for about 5 seconds, you would see a light, and then 55 seconds of no light or darkness. Mm-hmm. And that was the specific flash pattern for the Fire Island Lighthouse. So when the ship captain, were full of perhaps immigrants, were coming across the Atlantic, they would know, okay, we are approaching Fire Island Lighthouse, and we are about 40 miles from New York City. Fire Island Lighthouse is actually, the current day Fire Island Lighthouse was actually built before the Statue of Liberty. So it is perhaps the first light they did see coming across the Atlantic.
That really is amazing. So I understand when Fire Island Lighthouse was first built, they actually thought it was too short, right? Was that in 1826, right?
You got it, yeah.
And then it increased to size, and it might be one of the tallest lighthouses on Long Island.
Yeah, yep.
And probably the only one that's as iconic we were mentioning is Montauk Point Lighthouse. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Montauk's an awesome lighthouse, and they do a great job over there. And they were actually one of the oldest lighthouses on Long Island.
Right.
But hold on, we're gonna have to pause. Where was I going?
I wanted to ask you a question. We were talking a little bit about all these the original lighthouse, but when the commission to build the lighthouses, that actually
Yes,
came from the maritime, the United States Maritime.
So yeah, the original Fire Island Lighthouse, like you said, 1826.
Yes.
That's about 199 years ago, so 2026, 200. We're all excited to celebrate that. But the original lighthouse was built because New York Harbor was very treacherous, and ships coming in and out were kept crashing. So they built it at 74 feet tall with a light that can shine out about 10 to 14, 15 miles out to sea.
Wow.
Instantly, it was a failure, unfortunately. It was not tall enough. The light did not shine out far enough, and ships kept crashing. And then it took them many shipwrecks, many deaths, and eventually in 1858 we have our modern day Fire Island Lighthouse.
Right.
Our 168 feet tall tower
Right.
That can shine 20 to 24 miles out to sea or so.
Right. You know, I think it's very interesting when you think about a lighthouse, and I know we've talked on this podcast a little bit, that the actual keepers of the lighthouse, the people that keep the lighthouse going, especially back in the time, like you just said, before electricity, you know, I can't even imagine that. I mean, I grew up in a house that had, you know, one TV, and people, you know, my kids are horrified by that. Like, wait, what? So to go back, especially we're actually filming this when we're in the middle of a heat wave. So the lack of electricity could, you know, make people go crazy. But you really think about the dedication of the people that actually worked, you know, these lighthouses and really dedicated to the service of the people, you know, that were kind of out there. You know, but yeah, and I think that talks a little bit about why the preservation and exactly what you do with the society to keep the stories about this alive. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that the society does and why you feel it's so important to educate, you know, the people from any tourists that come? Hey, there's a bunch of schools that come, right? Like. You have visitors from schools all over Long Island.
Yeah, I know. We have about 5,000 school kids come through our school program Monday through Friday during the school year round.
Wow.
Generally, they're all fourth graders, so we always get...
It's a good time to learn.
Yeah, it was New York State history that year. So.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get them, you know, 5, 10, 15 years later saying, oh my gosh, that was the last time I was here. I was in fourth grade.
Yeah,
So that's always a joy. But yeah, I mean, you know, the Lighthouse Keeper and also the life-saving service, who were kind of like modern-day lifeguards and Coast Guard combined, they were dedicated. They had to be out there in the cold, in the harsh environment. They did not have all the technologies we have today.
To know impending storms or you know things were headed their way.
They couldn't radio town for help.
Yes.
So yeah, they were proper men and women.
Yeah.
So I definitely give them a lot of credit. And credit also to the builders of these giant structures that make them, you know, they were
still
unique
are standing today.
and beautiful and structurally really amazing. So yeah, we at the Preservation Society, we are so proud to be able to have the opportunity to protect this lighthouse, to continue to preserve it, but also to educate everyone about, you know, back then lighthouses were the real form of like travel and communication. They were the road maps of the world.
Yes.
The marine, you know, network
that
allowed, you know, human civilization to expand.
Right.
So
we
really
didn't have
cool.
planes back then,
No,
so
no
the main
planes,
way
no
that you got
cars,
from
everything was by boat.
you know, country to country was water, and it was really pretty significant. You know, I think one of the things that I find so really wonderful is that the Fire Island Lighthouse also includes, along that barrier beach, the entire national seashore. And I know you spent a great deal of time working at that. Can you tell us why it's so wonderful to have both of these very, in my opinion, fragile, you know, Superstorm Sandy and hurricanes and all this stuff. You know, why is it so important to preserve this? Why is it that, I mean, I think that, if I read this correctly, you have over 100 volunteers? Of volunteers that are just
dedicated,
here to...
amazing volunteers.
Right,
no, I mean, why is it so important to protect our lighthouse on a island that is shifting and changing and being wiped out by storms? You you could get into the fact that the barrier island on Long Island, off of Long Island, that's protecting the mainland, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a reason, right?
Right.
I think a good reason is we have over 100,000 visitors come just to the lighthouse. Robert Moses State Park has millions of visitors.
Yes.
Fire Island National Seashore has millions of visitors. And so it's just that's where people want to be.
Right, exactly.
Even in the coldest winter months, there's
Yes.
walkers,
Yes.
hikers. Just getting outside, seeing the lighthouse, seeing the ocean, the nature. I think that's a good enough reason for me.
Right.
That's why I'm there.
Yes, exactly. And I also think like like you said, the fourth graders, they come in and they learn about the lighthouse. But I think in addition to that, your program is also tried to help the next generation talk about preserving, staying off the dunes and, watching them, they kind of, keep away from the plovers when they're, there is a pattern to understanding the ecosystem around the Fire Island, seashore.
Yeah, kind of going back to the original keepers, they were out there keeping their lighthouse going, and they had to work with nature. They had to know, all right, it's a snowstorm.
Right.
Let's adapt to the situation.
Right.
And I think today, a lot of people lost that. We think we're perhaps invincible.
Right.
But I don't know, just working with nature and realizing how much benefit it gives us.
Yes.
I think that's worth it right there.
There is a stigma for people that live in a certain area. Some people say, I lived in New York my whole life, never been to Statue of Liberty. Some people have said, I live on Long Island, I've never gone to the lighthouse. I guess there's an
Happens
assumption.
every day.
Right? There's just an assumption that it'll be there.
Yeah. That's
but
good.
I think, once you go, and something else we want to talk about is you guys are open like all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
What did you say? You're closed at Christmas?
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter.
That's it. So
even on the rainy days where our volunteers show up, they want to be there.
Right.
Sometimes I have to call them like, hey guys, it's really pouring out. I think we might shut down a little early, and they're like, oh, I'll come anyways.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, okay.
Yeah, because you always want to keep the light on.
Yes, and there's always something to do where besides education, we do maintenance. And we're always painting something, repairing something.
The upkeep is probably the
constant upkeep. And we got
because
a really
of
good
the
team.
elements, I imagine, right?
We actually maintain the beacon. It's an aid to navigation. It's still on the charts, and the Preservation Society took it over from the Coast Guard in 2006. And so we have that responsibility to keep the light shining. So that requires an enormous amount of effort, and we have a really great team that helps us do that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I have family members on the regular that they do the walk to the lighthouse every New Year's Day. There's a symbolism but they couldn't do it without the efforts of the people, at the society that are volunteers dedicated.
Amazing. They inspire me.
Yeah.
So much.
So to fund a lot of the work and the upkeep that you have to do, there's a tremendous amount of fundraising and stuff like that, and a lot of that falls on your shoulders to help coordinate. Does that sometimes feel like, well, I really like to be outside, I really like to do the fun things, but then again, this is what helps keep, no pun intended, the lights on.
Yeah, Lighthouse is a good balance though. We just got Wi-Fi all over the area, and now I can go up top the tower, do some fundraising.
There you go.
And
okay.
have a good view too. So I don't think out of anyone can complain.
Right. Yeah.
But it is a lot, and it does fall on my shoulders and the board and the volunteers, and we have some staff as well. It's I'm new to this. This is my first role, learning how to fundraise, and I think we're doing a good job so far.
Yes.
And we're having fun, and I think that's what counts.
That's what counts.
And I think that's what people want to see. That if we give money, if we become members, if we donate. Even if we volunteer,
it's there for all of us to enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to something too.
Right.
It's everything is going into fixing the tower, the building, the lands. We have over 50 programs. Many of them are free for the public, just because we want to get people out here just to see the value. To show, okay, I'll give some money, and it's going towards something real, something
it's here for all of
physical.
us to enjoy for the future.
Yep.
What do the lighthouses of today, not just Fire Island, but all over the country, do they continue? I mean, as we've gained in technology and gained in, radars and all, is there still value?
So generally around after like World War II or so, technology exploded. Communications, satellite, and now we're all hooked into our cell phones nowadays, right?
Yes.
My cell phone can navigate better than the Lighthouse, unfortunately.
Yes.
And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, and even still today, lighthouses are kind of they're relics of the past, and they require an enormous amount of upkeep, and many of them have been decommissioned and demolished, or many are continuing to be on the slate of potentially being decommissioned or demolished. So our story at the Fire Island Lighthouse in the 80s, it was saved, money was raised, and we restored it. Because this is before my time, but even still today, though, we felt it had value. It held our history, our past.
Sure, yeah.
And I think the real story of the Lighthouse today is just community. It's like, all right, let's come here, let's do a good thing.
Yes.
Even going back, to the original Lighthouse Keepers, like their job was not political. It was just save lives. Like,
yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing.
Did you hear what he said?
That's beautiful.
Not political.
Yeah.
We're here to save lives.
But and it's just like, like that was their mission, to help people.
Right.
And I think we can do that today, not necessarily by directly saving lives, but inviting people out to enjoy the view,
right,
look at the ocean, talk to our volunteers, talk to other visitors. I think that saves lives today.
Yeah.
I
also think that it's really cool that we're teaching people about the beaches. I've always remarked my generation, we didn't always do a good job at that. Let's hope that who we hand it off to, they seem to be a little better at it than us.
Yeah, no, I mean that's my passion. I'm a surfer, a sailor, kite surfer, biker. I love being outside.
Yeah.
Love exploring our world. I love exploring Long Island.
Yeah.
Long Island has so much to offer. Besides all of our roads we have, there's a lot more around. A lot of little nuggets of places to play, basically.
Right.
And,
before we go, I do have to ask this. I have a small fascination with the fact that all the humpback whales are back, the dolphins are back. We've seen them at the beaches. The drones can go out and show. Have you seen more of those? Some people say, it was COVID. Nobody went in the water. There's no boats. This is another part of the mythical, the magic for me, that the beach and the lighthouse and seeing the marine life back. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with our waters are a lot cleaner, at least in my, small amount of life I've had. I think the water is definitely cleaner when I was a kid. We see them up top the tower, and our volunteers, we have radio down, dolphin, dolphin, everyone look, and everyone goes to the windows. And lighthouses actually have a connection to whales and dolphins and marine life, specifically whales. The first oils used to light lanterns of lighthouses and many other things of that era were whales. And
whale oil,
what I tell people is, they used whale oil until they ran out of whales, basically.
Yes, and now they're back, thank God, because of technology.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thanks so much for coming here, for talking. You know how I feel about lighthouses, specifically yours, and I thank you and the society and all the volunteers. If people our viewers wanted to know more, what would be the best place to go to find out, hey, what time do they open?
So I'd say the best place would be actually to come to the lighthouse, come to the Fire Island Lighthouse, and come for a climb, talk to our volunteers. That's where you see the real excitement.
Yeah.
But we have our website, fireislandlighthouse.com. We also are doing Instagram and Facebook. And then also on our website, you can find that you can donate, you can become a member. Membership is very important to us. And you can volunteer. Come hang out at the lighthouse and look at the beach all day.
Come look at some whales.
So there's many ways to support us. Soon we'll be undergoing a large fundraising campaign, and stay tuned for that, because we really will need your help, all right?
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
have you back again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
See you at the Lighthouse.
Absolutely. You will.
Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Remember that lighthouses symbolize hope. With hope, we persevere and inspire positive change. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep shining your light.